You want to just introduce yourself real quickly?
I'm Matt Gibson.
Okay.
Well, all right, what else do you want to say in my introduction? Oh, man, I'm blowing this right off the bat.
No, you're doing great. Okay. Very candid. You want to introduce yourself, like what you've done in the past, your relationship with entrepreneurship?
Sure. All right, so I'm Matt Gibson. I am the former Director of Educational Programs at the Center for Entrepreneurship, which I was at the Center for Entrepreneurship at the University of Michigan for 5 years. Previous to that, I was involved in startups, both as a graduate student and then after. I was in Boston and was part of basically a venture-backed startup out in Boston. And then earlier this fall, I transitioned my role so I could get back involved in startups again. And so I still teach part-time at the university, and then I work with some companies in the area, helping them try to do their startup thing.
Okay, cool. So what would you say was like your first exposure to entrepreneurship before you joined the CFE when you were still working with startups?
For me, it's probably my dad. He and his uncle got involved. His uncle was the founder of a small company that was pretty successful, actually. A total no-name kind of business, but that was later acquired. And so I saw my dad get involved in that and kind of go from a weekend thing that they would do to a full-time company that was, I think they got up to be about 100 people before they were acquired. And then actually about a year or two before they were acquired, my dad actually left and started his own company. And so I observed that, saw that, admired that. Interestingly though, despite coming from kind of what I think of an entrepreneurial background, my parents were not particularly, they thought the way to go is just go get an education, go get a job.
As many parents do.
Yeah, they didn't have a college education. So when I was doing well in school, they really encouraged me to just keep on doing well in school. And it was not until I was in graduate school, so I was in the middle of my PhD, that I suddenly realized school and the education had largely driven the kind of entrepreneurial inclinations out of me.
Oh,
and they were I felt like they were a part of me, and yet they were kind of being driven out, So,
yeah.
Because it's at a university, you're trained to basically go stand at career fairs with your resume, right? And basically be subservient to that system.
Are there benefits to, going to school for longer? Does that ever help entrepreneurship?
So, yes, it definitely does help. We certainly are living in an increasingly high-tech world.
Mm-hmm.
And so many of the high-tech opportunities in entrepreneurship are absolutely going to be, for those who are at the leading edge of that, which comes through certain types of education programs, PhDs, not exclusively, but, certainly those open up certain opportunities. The thing that I wish, so when I started to go through school, it really there wasn't kind of the infrastructure in place that there is now, which has happened in a very short period of time, to try to have programs that help people think and act entrepreneurially. And so what I say now is I'm fine with school. I think education, University of Michigan, universities in general, there's a very valuable place, or they create a lot of value. But for those who want to be entrepreneurial, I think you have to be pretty active in trying to maintain that kind of entrepreneurial mindset. Because it's very easy to go kind of towards the way the masses go, of just, you get your degree, you get a job, you go work for someone else. Having said that, even though that's not necessarily a terrible thing, simply because, for example, most people, that's a better fit for them. Most people are not entrepreneurs. And even many successful entrepreneurs did in fact do other things first, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
It's not uncommon to see people in their 40s, 50s, or even later successfully start companies. So you
Mm-hmm.
don't have to do it when you're 20. In fact, most people are not ready to do it when they're 20. Most people are going to be prepared to successfully start a company after they understand the industry that they want to be involved in a little bit more, so they understand how to succeed in it or how to break it.
Mm-hmm.
Typically some management experience or project experience, or even if they weren't like leaders in a company before, to just have seen the systems in place.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's even simple things like, here is a really simple example. Actually, I shared it with some of the ELP students where it's like, this one company that I'm working with, they really don't know how to hire.
Right. Yeah.
And like, it seems so like, but hiring someone is actually not that easy of a process.
Yeah.
Or even things like looking at expense reports, like how do we manage our expenses, and we give someone a purchase card or a company credit card, and how do you reconcile that and make sure, right? So if you've been a part of another company before, you see, oh, like, this is how we used to do that. And it worked well, we're gonna do it here. And you don't have to recreate the wheel over and over and over once you have experience. And so there's a certain level of efficiency when you see even simple things like that being done elsewhere that allow you to accelerate your success. It's one thing to learn, like, and develop a new business model, but when you're trying to do that at the same time as you're trying to figure out, like, how to get a company credit card, how to, like,
it's
hire
a
someone,
lot.
right? Like, it's a lot. When you know some of those things, then it's a lot easier. So
it's more like second nature.
Yeah, when you learn to ride a bike, when you first ride a bike, like, they put you on there, right? And you have training wheels.
Mm-hmm.
And the only thing you're really learning to do is move your feet, like in a circular pedal motion.
Yeah.
Like, your parents are there making sure you don't steer off, right? Usually, like, your mom or dad is holding the handlebars, pulling you along as you pedal. Once you learn, like, the pedaling motion, then it's like, okay, then they'll let you steer on your own.
Yeah.
And then, like, you take the training wheels off and you can balance too. And then you can, like, learn to ride no hands. Then you can learn to, like, jump off a ramp or whatever, right? But, like, trying to start a startup with no experience is kind of like hopping in the X Games when you've never ridden a bike before and be like, here's the bike.
Yeah, learn all of it at once.
Yeah, but then it becomes second nature. Like, balancing becomes basically second nature, or steering or pedaling is like second nature once you've done it and learned it under those other circumstances.
Yeah, so on that note of, like, sort of what makes, like, a successful startup, what in your experience has been, like, maybe give me an example of a startup that you've been a part of or, like, sort of seen that has been most successful, and, like, what were sort of the characteristics of both leadership and also just the startup as a whole?
Yeah. So, I'm trying to think of some good examples here. Most startups that I see that are successful, first of all, they have a customer. Like, I mean, I think it seems so obvious to say that, but, like, most of them have, like, a customer that they actually sell to, so there's a business model there. Again, you look at some of the companies that get a lot of attention, like WhatsApp, for example. It's like they were acquired for, billions of dollars, and they weren't making any money. Like, again, the reason that gets so much attention is because it's the exception, not the rule.
Yeah, for sure.
So most of them have a, they have a customer in mind. They have a customer that they can sell to, that they can actually, have a business model and make money. Secondly, leadership that has a vision for what the future can be is super important to be, successful. And I think that's been true. So both of those conditions were very true. I had Doug Song was one of the guests that we had at Entrepreneurship Hour.
Mhm.
So he founded Duo Security, and like, if you listen to that and talk to him or have followed that at all, like you'll see those two conditions were absolutely met, like right off the
Mhm.
bat. Try to find customers, and then here's this vision for this, this is what we can be, and really lead with that vision. Yeah, that's true of literally like all of the successful startups that I've been associated with, known, interacted with. Like I said, there are exceptions to that, but that's really risky.
Can you tell me more about like what you've been up to lately? And I know you're working with a lot of startups, and I remember you mentioned that you might be thinking about joining as like a co-founder or something. How's all of that been going?
Yeah. So there are various projects and companies right now. Some are kind of in a state of just talking
Yeah.
and exploring and saying, hey, here's some of the things we have going on. Here's some of my skill sets and opportunities, and let's kind of see if there's a match at
Like
all.
freelancing, sort of.
Freelancing, or even some of them are just kind of pretty open discussions.
Mhm.
Like, I've been pretty candid with a lot of people saying, hey, like I'm here, I'm, doing things, and so that's actually, those conversations have been a lot easier than I expected.
Mhm.
There have been several kind of projects, project proposals, even some offers that have come out of those things that have been, it's like I said, it hasn't been hard, it hasn't been uncomfortable. I like talking to people, I like trying to find things that we can work on together.
Mhm.
So that's been, and there's been a variety of those, everything from, you mentioned kind of university technologies, so there's one or two of those that I'm kind of looking at still. Those take a long time,
Mhm.
because you gotta really, if you're gonna go that path, it's a long time to get to market, so you better make sure that you feel comfortable that that's really the direction
Yeah.
you want to go. So with some of those, we've spoken with investors and with the university and things like that. Some of the companies I've talked to, some in kind of the venture space, some one startup that's actually looking at, they've been around for a couple of years, they're doing well, and it looks like they're probably going to try to excuse me, raise some venture capital.
Mhm.
So we're exploring whether or not that might be a good fit or not. I have definitely enjoyed the change.
That's good.
Yeah, change is always a little scary, and
It
then,
is.
you start on the path, and it's hopefully you make a good decision.
Well, I think it's working for you. Okay, so now I have some like less, I guess, entrepreneurial
Sure.
questions. What are some things you want to learn more about?
Oh, so this will probably use all of your data time, or your whole SD card or whatever you have in that thing. No, I won't go that long. I do have I am a kind of self-proclaimed infovore. Meaning I have kind of a learning addiction.
Mhm.
I constantly like to learn new things. I listen to podcasts, I listen to books, I listen to speakers from conferences, like all this kind of stuff constantly. One of the things that I'm actually spending a lot of time learning about right now is sales. Like, I am trained as an engineer. I spent a lot of time in my life trying to learn how to be a leader and manage people.
Mhm.
And I'm trying to learn some other very applicable skill sets. And one of the things with some of these companies, almost any startup has to learn sales and put sales processes in place. And if you're looking at technology companies that are founded by technology people, usually they don't know anything about sales. So that's something I've been trying to learn about a lot. I also have been spending, my reading has shifted a little bit more towards biographies and memoirs. I recently read Sam Walton's biography, which is
Mhm.
super good.
Okay. At the end of the day, how well do you know yourself?
Oh wow, that's super deep.
it's as deep as you want it to be.
I would certainly like to think I know myself pretty well. I'm probably not. I am, at least inwardly, probably my like biggest critic by like
Harsh internal critic.
yeah. People probably now are getting like personal and deep. I beat myself up a ton. Like this is like true confession moment. Like way more than like I let on to other people, and probably like way more than I should. So many people I think suffer from things like imposter syndrome and things like I've totally like battle that all the time.
Yeah.
And that's okay. Like I'm coming to be like comfortable with that. Like I don't think it goes away really.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think parts of it do. Yeah. So anyway, the short answer is I do think I know myself pretty well. I spend a lot of time trying to understand myself, and most of the things that I spend my time on with regard to like reading habits or things I'm working on are because I've tried to reflect on those things and try to figure out what I need. I'll tell you maybe this related to this question, maybe it's related to some of the other ones, but as I looked, for the past year or two, trying to think about whether I should make a transition. I mean, for me, the urge and kind of the drive to go work with companies outside the university was strong and growing stronger. So for me, one thing was like whatever new role or opportunity I pursued would have to be one where I could continue to learn. So when I came to the Center for Entrepreneurship, it was a great learning opportunity. It was great to like learn more about entrepreneurship education. Like it was a great learning ground because like here we are teaching this stuff that like I wanted to like know and do better myself. Obviously I had a good foundation, but it's like it doesn't stop there. So that was one thing, is one thing as I kind of make this transition. Another thing is an opportunity to be a part of something that was growing. So I don't really have any interest in, say, being a part of a company that is just kind of like going to be there, like just there, right? Like at the Center for Entrepreneurship, I had the opportunity to like really be a part of growing like a lot of things we do. Start new programs, like our enrollment doubled, right? Start like new events, traditions, reach out to new types of students that we hadn't had before, form new partnerships like across the university, form new partnerships outside the university. Like those were all things that were just, those things weren't there before. Like there was a great foundation that we could build on. And so when I saw all those pieces in place, like it was really attractive for me to say, oh, like this is a high growth opportunity. Like that's the phrase I use all the time, like high growth opportunity. So anyway, that's the second thing, like a high growth opportunity. 3 was or is an opportunity to lead. Like I think I do enjoy being a leader. I think I need to, for personal and professional reasons, continue to lead. It doesn't mean I have to be, the head honcho or whatever term you want to use, but I do need to be a part of leading, and that's like a part of me and something that I need and look for.
Okay, awesome. Well, that's all the questions I have. Is there anything else you want to add? Any wise words you want to impart on our viewers?
No, I just hope you're good editors.
I hope we are too. We'll do our best.
Yeah, don't raw cut this because otherwise it'll be kind of boring.
No, everything's very interesting. Okay, awesome. Well, thank you so much, Matt.
No, thank you. It's fun.
That is the end of our episode.